All right, Andrew, take it away.
Yeah. So, if you like what we're talking about and everything like that, definitely like and subscribe. Comment down below. That would be great. Today, I kind of want to talk about the Epstein files. I know we've kind of done a few, or I think maybe just one about conspiracies, but I'm curious what you guys know about this and if you've kept up with it. So, Josh, have you been keeping up with this?
Doing with the Epstein files?
Yep.
Yeah, I have been.
What's going on? Kind of give me a summary.
Wasn't there a name that came out on it?
I don't know. I don't know what's been like ever since Trump got in. I haven't really been keeping up with it.
You were talking to me. But didn't they release like a few names on there, Andrew?
Oh, they did? Like who?
Hold on one second. I'll pull up a source real quick.
Have you been keeping up with this stuff, Austin?
I feel like Austin would be better at me at this.
Yeah, and like my personal opinion, 100. Good Lord, I cannot talk tonight. Tucker Carlson said, which I don't know if you saw that before we got on, but he's at I think it's TPUSA, and he was like, he says it's a Mossad intelligence operation. Which, if you know anything about the Maxwell family and like specific, and also like Epstein specific ties, like yeah, that it checks out.
I
It
think
was.
the thing with all of that was it's like really like was someone that in deep with like the elites? You know what I mean? Because it was like Bill Barr's dad like appointed him as the headmaster, and like there's like a lot of these weird connections that are in there. You know?
I mean, it was very clearly like a blackmail, like influence operation. Like it's, like a lot of people like to just kind of boil it down to like, oh, these are just elites and they have like sick fetishes, which I mean that's true too. But like the whole recording aspect of it, the files, the dossiers, I mean, all that's pretty consistent of like an operation of sorts. And like
But is it, is
he
it
got the.
weird they had like hundreds of people?
Oh yeah, like and too, like the whole thing with like they're saying the list disappeared. Like I'm sorry, like. And one thing that really stood out to me in like the last couple of weeks is like, if you remember at the time when he died, they claimed there was no like recording of his cell at all, and they maintained that for like years. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we magically have this recording. And then
Yeah.
the thing that came out like today, I don't know if you saw that. They're like, yeah, that video they released, like it was clearly edited. Like they cut it into, it was like cut from like two different parts. So it's like, yeah, you guys basically just edited out the parts we actually wanted to see. Like we're not stupid. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
but like, did we must have known about this guy? That's the part where I'm like, maybe they don't want to release the files because it's like they knew about
well, I mean,
Jeffrey
he,
Epstein.
he got convicted back in the early 2000s. He got a sweetheart deal for.
But I'm talking about even before that. Like I think they probably knew about him.
I'm sure they did, but I mean, like I said, like it has all the like. If you know anything about like intelligence work and like all those details that have come out, it's very, very consistent with some sort of operation. And
Yeah.
like, so I'm sure they knew about it, but it's also like if your boss is on that list, he's not going to let you do anything about it. I mean,
But isn't it weird that a lot of them were like musicians and actors and like a lot of them were in pop culture. Isn't that kind of weird?
not really. I mean, if you like
Like
one
I'm
really,
I'm surprised like Bill Clinton could be involved in this. You know what I mean?
it's not just Clinton. I mean, there's a lot of indications Trump is possibly on the
Well,
list.
Trump, but that's the thing. That's why I'm like, okay, like, well, we knew they were friends, right?
Yeah,
But that's why for me, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, but like, if he like, I'm almost just kind of like, what do you know? Like, I don't want to know
yeah.
what you're involved in. Like, what do you know?
I
Like,
mean,
how bad is this?
if you were on the flight logs, I mean, come on. Like we don't have the. We,
RFK was on him.
yeah, I mean that too. I mean, like we have the flight logs, we just don't have like the list of people that actually went to the island. That's the thing people have been wanting to know. But it's like, I mean, if you're close enough friends with him, you're on the flights like multiple times. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah. Well,
And
well, and that's why it's like, I think about him and I'm like, there's got to be like a connection. Like that's why sometimes I'm like maybe it's not the kid thing. Maybe there's like a few people who are into that. But I'm like maybe this is bigger in that like kind of like how the before they established the OSS. A lot of it was like very influential people kind of acting and kind of doing a lot of that stuff because they can get across the countries. And I'm like almost wondering if that's this. Like this is just kind of Jeffrey Epstein is like a smaller part of like this whole big
Yeah.
CIA Mossad thing.
No, I'm sure he was. Like, I mean, he was definitely like I would say he was like a major part, but it's not. As far as we can tell, he wasn't actually in the agencies. But like, if you're an asset, you're an asset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, like everything that I've seen from this case is like it is very consistent with some sort of like intelligence operation, and like it's not
Yeah.
really. I mean, if you can get multiple people on video doing like stuff that's highly illegal, I mean, there's that, but it's also just like there's also just the basic level of like, oh, hey, Senator X from such and such state, we got this video we could send to your wife. I'm sure you don't want that, so how about you do X for us, or Y for this or that, and then to the point you brought up about like musicians and stuff. I think
Yeah.
it was the Doors. I've never really bothered to look into it more than like a surface level, but because it was just one of those things. It's like, okay, that's a little weird. I think it was the Doors, like their head musician. His dad was like a CIA agent, so I mean, it's not unusual
Yeah.
for like.
Well, that's why I'm like okay, like that'd be a great way to kind of like, you know, the the government basically indirectly managing, you know, the culture in the United States. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah,
a big old psyop right there.
and
Um,
like like it's not musicians, but kind of on that same vein. Like we now know like the CIA was like funding a lot of the art scene back in like the '60s and '70s,
yeah.
and they
Well,
like
and they had people like Dershowitz. Like they had people that were like, okay, like, you know, like you need a top notch lawyer, people, whatever it is. Like they've got people in the group that can do that stuff or are
well,
involved in that.
and to the fact Dershowitz came out like yesterday and was like, yeah, I know that list definitely exists. Like he was very much implicated in that whole thing. And like the theory I saw about it, which kind of made sense to me, it's like, oh, publicly we're claiming we don't have that list, but Dershowitz coming out and kind of being like, yeah, I definitely know that list has to exist. It's kind of a subtle like we actually still have that list. So like if we have like material and you don't think you're out of it kind of deal. I think it was kind of
Yeah.
like a subtle threat in a way.
I think what also is there is it's like, and I think probably one of the reasons why they're trying to keep it away is it's like you may get someone who's like Trump, and from what Trump says, it's like he hung around the guy, maybe he's kind of friendly with him. Now, I think Trump stopped being friends with him once Epstein was convicted of the child stuff at the very beginning. But there are some people who like kind of kept hanging around him,
Oh yeah,
and
a
I think that's
lot
where
of
you could be
congressional
like,
people.
okay, did you or were you RFK and you're just on the you're just using his plane for part of your charity or whatever it is, like, okay, that's one thing. And then it's like, okay, if you're Trump, you're kind of friends with him, but then you stop hanging out with him, like that's another thing. And then it's like you're like Bill Gates, and it's like, okay, you were there to the very end. And it's
Yeah,
like that's weird. And I
and
think it's like nobody's gonna have that nuance, right?
yeah.
And so
Well,
it's like, oh, well, you're on Jeffrey Epstein's list.
I mean, I mean, there's also just a point where it's like I don't know, like even if like you stop hanging out with them, at a certain point, it's like how much did you know before? Because I mean like that was going on long enough. You had like I don't know, man. Like I think part of the reason too, it's not just like well, we don't want to implicate people that are like currently powerful. I think there's also an element of like you, like I've always one that like loves to compare like our situations like historical examples, like in the last days of the Soviet Union, they had glasnost and perestroika, and the whole openness, like trying to like make the system more like open, like opaque is like if you suddenly find out like hey like a lot of people in Congress, a lot of the current presidential cabinet, possibly even the president, past presidents, it's like yeah they were hanging around like a pedophile and potentially implicated in like sex trafficking and pedophilia and stuff. It's like yeah that's the kind of thing that can destroy the entire legitimacy of a system. That I mean most people don't really like to put it as mildly as I can, most people don't really like that sort of stuff. So it's like, you've already got like a very like tense political situation in the United States, and then just like, oh yeah, like half your leadership is pedophiles. Like that's the kind of thing that tends to add like gasoline to a fire.
Yeah. Josh, did you ever find those names?
Yeah, it was Pam something. I just can't find the last name on it.
Pam?
It was Pam something.
Oh.
Was it Pam Bondi,
Yes.
the
No
current
way.
the current AG?
Yes.
That's interesting. I haven't
That'd be
seen that.
whack.
I haven't seen it, but I mean, like going off of it being accurate, that would be kind of crazy. So I did.
No, I swear I saw that like the other day. I was like, dang. I mean, I think it's wild, but yeah, that was the one that I saw, and I was like, oh shit.
Well, her husband is kind of old.
Well, too, she's been implicated in a lot of weird stuff. Like
She
I
was Florida AG, right?
can't remember. I don't think so because like I do know when she got selected, a lot of issues people had with her was like she's very like I don't want to say like directly gun control, but she's very much a restrictionist, which was something a lot of
Mm.
like people on the right were kind of like I don't know about that, and then just other stuff like I know she used to be like I think it was she was either an attorney or a lobbyist for it was either Moderna or Pfizer, and that was another thing. It was kind of like okay, that's and then I feel like there was something else, but I can't remember what it was. But like, there's just a lot of weird stuff there. And then,
She's not ugly looking either.
no, I mean, like a lot of these women aren't. Like Christy Gnomes, I,
Well, she was more. Well, I was gonna say I don't want to say she was more attractive, but um, at the beginning of the presidency, she was more attractive.
so I mean, it's kind of like the Fox News like bimbo thing. Like they're getting really like they just kind of like, oh, we'll just put these pretty women. That'll be their qualifications. Is they're pretty. It's like, which I mean, in Gnome's case, at least she was like a governor before, but still.
True. Well, it's weird because it's like, I mean, all these like I don't know. I guess the big thing that I've heard with Trump is he's putting a lot of these loyalists, like diehard loyalists, like around him.
Yeah.
And so they may not be the best or whatever it is, but they're like loyal.
Yeah. That
And I
seems to
think
be the
it'd be
play.
and I think it'd be interesting if to go to what Josh was saying, if Pam Bondi was on the Epstein files, because it's like, okay, like she's got skin in the game. Because it's like, okay, now it's not just Trump. It's like, oh well, Trump be like, hey, look, Pam Bondi's not doing it, you know, and so she kind of takes a little bit of heat off the president. So it's like, hey, this is Pam Bondi, but then it's like, oh, she's on the list, and it's like, oh, okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, like there is, like I have been seeing stuff today that like the administration really did not seem to be expecting this level. It's bad, like it really is bad, like the level, like the reaction I'm seeing and stuff. But like there was some reporting today that like I think it was Dan Bongino, I think is like the assistant FBI director, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
was like threatening to like resign if like it. So I mean, like it does seem like it's creating like internal frictions, and like there was some talk like, well, she could potentially be the sacrifice if it comes down to it. But it's also like at a certain point, it's like okay, if she is on the list, or if Kay's on the list, Trump might be on the list. At a certain point, it's like you can't escape it. It's kind of tarnished the whole group.
yeah.
But
Well, and the thing that I have with that is it's like, okay, let's say Trump's not on a list, and there's just some other reason why he doesn't want to do it. I think the issue with that is there's always going to be some people out there who are going to think, oh no, he's actually on the list. Like I think there are people who have already kind of made up their mind of whether or not he's on the list or not. And
yeah.
I feel like there's tons of people who are like, he's on that list regardless. And it's like, well, he may not be on that list, but it's like you're just so programmed where you're like, no, he's on that list. Like he's got to be, and it's like,
and I am seeing a lot of that take. It's like I've also seen a lot of people like downplaying the whole like Epstein thing now. That seems to be like a big talking point now. And
yeah,
it's
like I
like,
think Ben Shapiro was doing that, right?
well, I mean, yeah, we could take a wild guess while he's doing it, but
Yeah. Guess what his motive on that one is?
I can make some assumptions. I just don't want to get the channel banned.
Yeah. Yeah, don't want to make us lose our 100 subscribers.
They're probably gonna get on here like, yeah, you guys should say it. Like we've
Yeah.
been through all the craziness. Just say it.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's just people who I think I'm worried that this is going to turn into a JFK thing. And I
Oh
think I
yeah,
tweeted about this where it was like, the Trump administration's having a double-edged sword on this. Is they're like, oh, we want to let everybody know who the JFK, RFK killers were, right? But
yeah,
it's like the thing is like you can release all that stuff. There's always going to be a group of people who are like, there's something missing, or oh, they
yeah.
destroyed the other evidence, and it's like
I,
government can be like, hey, look, yeah, like this is what happened, and people just will not believe them.
and I'm sitting here thinking about it. Like I made the point, like legitimacy. Like it kind of dovetails what you're saying. It's like people don't believe them because like we've had enough like decades of ample enough reasons not to believe them. And I
Yeah,
mean, this kind of adds to it. But there's also like something else I just thought about kind of in that vein. It's like there is a high likelihood that like once he leaves office, if a Democrat wins in like 2028, they may have some like pressure from like the base to like from their base to be like, yeah, we should try to maybe we should try to prosecute him for like the ICE thing or this thing or that thing.
yeah.
So like,
Well, dude, I think that's gonna happen in 2026. Like, I think if Democrats get the House, which it looks like they should, right? For just based off of recent history and stuff. They just need 3 more seats, and then they've got the majority in the House, and then they can lead all the investigations that they want.
yeah, and I feel like I mean there is a possibility that like the whole like the list thing may be like leverage at this point. It's like, yeah, you can investigate me all you want, but if you try anything with it, I've got this guy, that girl, this guy, and that girl, they're on the list. I can release that. So, I mean, it could be like a form of leverage at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that would be a very Trumpian play. I mean, I could definitely see something like that. But to me, like, it genuinely just feels like it's, it's just the crisis of legitimacy to me. Because, I mean, it's not just the fact that, like, like, oh, we could get trouble, we could get impeached for this. I feel to me, it also feels like it's just like it's like I said, like most normal people, like I'm not sure how much we can say without running afoul of YouTube, but just being like honest about it, like most people's reactions to like pedophiles is like, I feel like death penalty or unaliving penalty, shall we say? And
Yeah.
it's like that's most people's default reactions. And it's like I said, like then consider like you find out like most of your government is involved in that. I mean that I just feel like the legitimacy angle is something, and I've seen people argue that today, but they kind of used it more as an excuse. I'm using it more of like I just this is a very politically like what's the word I want to use here? It's we're very in a very politically toxic environment already, but then like I said, just adding that on top of it, that could get a lot going. I mean, I don't know if we talked about it last episode or the episode before last, but we're starting to see more and more like overt acts of political violence. Like that's not uncommon now. Like I don't know if you guys saw that the other day, but they had like it was like I want to say like 10 to 15 people get arrested because they like plotted like an ambush on like ICE officers in like Texas. And then before that, we had that guy that killed those people, those politicians in Minnesota, or unalive those
Yeah.
politicians in Minnesota. I gotta be careful what I say.
Yeah.
Um, like we're kind of already in a very politically toxic environment, so it's like adding that on top of it. I just don't see that working out well for the powers that be in a sense. I
I,
do feel like that's probably the main motivation beyond just like like I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to potentially get impeached or whatever.
well, and
So,
I mean, the whole violence thing. I just never understood that. Like, I never understood. Like, okay, you know, I don't understand why one side does it because it's like I'd want to take the moral high ground on that shit. Like, hey, we're not the ones who do that shit. Like the whole ICE thing, it's like, do you really need to be ambushing like ICE officers? Like, really? And it's like with the other one you were talking about, it's like, do we really need to be doing that?
no, but I
Like
mean,
like
like,
like like it's one of those where it's just kind of like I think it's just crazy how some people are just like they like. I mean, some of them are professionals. This is the shit they do.
Yeah.
They want to stir up that pot.
But I think it does speak to like the wider frustrations. Like this is not, normal in an American context. So it's like, and kind of funny. We keep talking about like, oh yeah, like the '60s or '70s or stuff. Like that was the last time this was really happening on like a mass scale. Was like, we obviously had JFK, then RFK. We had Martin. MLK. A lot of LKs I'm noticing or Ks there, but like, like people forget like the Weather Underground was a thing back in like the
Yep.
'60s and '70s. They bombed Congress, so I mean it's not. This isn't like a necessarily new phenomena, but it is a rare phenomena. So the fact it's happening again, it's kind of interesting. And
Well, what I think is interesting is I was listening to just even like just normal congressmen were like, yeah, like we've got to have security now.
yeah,
And it's like if you're in a somewhat leadership or influential position, like I'm watching Josh will be interested in this. I'm watching a document or not documentary interview that Burchett did, a day or two ago with some Knoxville group, and he was even saying, he's like, yeah, we gotta, double check our security and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, damn, like that'd be the worst part about the job is you got all these security guards around you, and that's just because some random person could come up and just kill you, and it's like damn, like I wouldn't. It's hard to think someone would want a job like that.
it's just well too the other element we kind of forgot about it. Like there was that CEO got killed back in December or unalived back in. I gotta remember to do that.
Yeah, back at the United Health.
Yeah, and it's like we're just increasingly. It's like you see it, and it's kind of like
But here's the thing: is I would separate the two though. I would separate the ICE violence from
I mean, yeah,
this
they're
like
definitely like.
economic violence
I
or
mean, they're
like
definitely different
societal violence.
causes, but like I do think it does trace back to like a root situation where like politics have just become so toxic and like like even if it's like different root causes, it's kind of like MLK was assassinated for something like different than what JFK was assassinated for, or what Weather Underground was doing was different than what they were doing. I mean, there at a root cause like there's probably like the similar like erosion of like norms and like lack of belief in like the system being being able to be reformed, but it's also like like you start seeing it like different things. And like there was a lot that like even went unreported recently, like when those protests were happening like a few weeks ago. Like there was, I think it was in Virginia, a guy actually like ran his car into like a crowd of protesters. So I mean, it's not all just one sided. Like there is stuff on the like going on like both sides. Like there is a degree of mobilization, and then what was the other thing
So,
that
but
happened?
let me stop you there. So, uh, I guess I'm trying to remember exactly the words, but I felt like Biden and Harris were even kind of talking about this stuff, where they were
Oh
like,
yeah,
now I think they said white supremacy violence or something like that. But I'm like, just take it one step further out and just say like, extremist violence and stuff like that.
yeah. Well,
It's
I mean,
kind of weird though because it's like, well, I mean, Democrats were like, hey, that's the stuff we're going to focus on.
it's they're playing to each side's thing. Like like they were focused on like the more right wing side of it, the whole January 6th thing.
Well, yeah,
But then like like now that the Republicans are in power, like there really wasn't much focus on that guy that like rammed his car. I mean,
yeah.
I mean that's that and again that kind of goes to erosion of norms. Like both sides are kind of like, well, I don't approve of violence, but our side's violence might be a little bit better than
Yeah, ours is better than yours.
So I mean that's definitely like a factor, and it's like I don't, it's pretty like okay. So the other thing I was thinking of, like, did you see that? Like, I don't even think we talked about in the group chat. Like, there's been so much happening recently. Like, we really have not had time to like focus on any one thing. But like that ambush in like Idaho, that guy,
I
where
heard
like
about this.
so a bunch of firefighters and cops got ambushed. Like the guy set a fire, and like after firefighters showed up to put it out, he ambushed him. So then the police showed up, and it turned into like a multi-hour standoff. And I think the guy ended up like you know handling the situation himself, shall we say? But like like multiple people, like multiple like first responders were taken out. So it's just like, I mean,
But I
again,
see.
it's just like I could right now I still don't know the guy's motivation. I've been trying to keep an eye on it. Like his dad was definitely connected to like Aryan Brotherhood, but like looking at the guy and some of his politics, it's like, and plus where he was at in Idaho was like known for being like a big Antifa spot. So it's like again, like we've kind of reached the point where some of these cases we don't even know like what side they're on.
So let's bring this back to the Epstein stuff. How much of, like, I guess, like, how, I'm trying to think. So, like, do you think this whole credibility gap, basically, what we're talking about, how much of the Epstein stuff do you think is involved in a lot of this outrage? Like, what priority is it on that?
Like I don't like. Are you asking me as like, is it the cause of the credibility thing, or do you think
Well, but I'm saying like, do you think anyone's gonna be up in the streets because of this? Like, do you think it's gonna be the same people that would do that, or do you not? Like who are the people who really care about this, and how would they be mobilized to do something like that?
I can definitely see. I don't really think anybody on the left would do anything about it. I
Mm.
don't. I mean, now they'll definitely make it a talking point, but as far as like action, I think you're more likely to see like somebody from the political right doing something about it. Like, and there definitely has been like a degree of, I would say, mobilization for this. Like, I don't know, like this was several years ago, but there was a guy that like a very QAnon type guy. He killed like or unalived like a major mob boss, I think in like New Jersey. So I mean, like, and the whole reason he did it was because like the whole thing they thought he was like a big like human trafficker or something. So I mean, if it comes out a lot of these politicians are connected to stuff, I mean, I would not be surprised if stuff started happening. And I think that kind of dovetails what you're saying earlier about like they're talking about like their security and stuff. Like, definitely possible. And like the one thing I think of that a lot of people kind of like memory hold. Do you remember that back in 2017 where like that baseball game with all those congressmen got attacked?
Yeah. Was
Like,
it was it Scalise that got shot?
yeah, Scalise got shot. Now that was like a
Yeah.
major, Republican Congress. I think it was like 9 in total got like injured or something.
hmm I
And
remember that.
so I mean, like
I don't remember it happening, but I remember like it was a big deal.
like, and looking back on it, 2017 had a lot of stuff in retrospect. We really kind of set the tone for now. I mean, there was that. There was multiple like major protests. There was Unite the Right in Charlottesville. There was
The Women's March.
yeah, there was that. It seemed like there was something. We still don't know what the motivation was, but the fact that it occurred at the same time is very weird. The whole Las Vegas thing.
Yeah.
There was that, and I feel like there was something else in 2017 that happened, but I can't remember what it was.
So what do you think is like the mode? So like to a lot of stuff happening this year, I guess, right?
Yeah,
What what would you say the motive is for Jeffrey Epstein? Like what do you think he gets out of this, right? Like that's one thing that I'm trying to also understand is it's like, okay, Israel's doing their thing. What's like his personal, like what's he really getting out of this? And like like how does that affect everything else? Because I'm like, what benefit does this guy get for having this like ring? Is it just like status? Like what is it? Like, what's
honestly,
what's
like
the reason why you would do that?
I, knowing human psychology, what it is. I mean, when you've got that, he was already pretty wealthy, but like at a certain point, it's like once you have all that wealth, it's like okay, the one aspect is like he was just a genuinely evil person. Like there could have just been the attraction to like the vices themselves and this or that. There's also just like we all know like certain rich people like when they're really well off, they just get really bizarre hobbies to try to like not even necessarily illegal stuff. Like you could be a car guy, you could be this or that. Like he could have just been seeking the thrill. But then there's also just like at the end of the day, like money and power and this and that, it can be intoxicating. Like there is a reason like the whole thing of like absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like that, that is a real thing.
That's a very
So
valid statement.
when you think about kind of like what he did, do you think, or and like someone like Trump being involved, do you think a lot of it is like they don't even like how do you think that happens? Like you think they're drugged? Do you think like, they know those girls are young? Like what exactly um how exactly do you think those things went about? Do you think they knew what was going on, or do you think they didn't know what was going on?
I mean, there's so many like not even like conspiracy tier, like or at least not like normal conspiracy tier, like the way most people think about. Like we do know like a lot of these like so elites have like their own secret clubs. They do a lot of weird stuff. Like the one that's like publicly recognized. Like, do you remember that a few years ago with like I think it was like David Cameron, who was like the British Prime Minister, was like the whole like pig gate thing.
No.
So it came out publicly that he was in like a secret society, I think in like college, and like the initiation ceremony he had to do was like you did stuff with like a pig carcass, shall we say?
Um,
So I mean, like these people do like weird stuff all the time. Like it's just something about like their level of like status or something like that. And then too, there's kind of I think an element of like if you've got already got some bosses, you can kind of be talking to other bosses, and then if they catch you on video, it's like okay, well you're going to do what we say, or you're going
well,
to
and
have to.
that's why I'm like, okay, were they just like horny and they just wanted like to get laid, and this young girl was like flirting with them, or like what exactly like happened? And like, like, oh, they didn't know about it, and then Epstein reported it. But then it kind of gets into, okay, well, like, did they must have known that they got dirt on them,
Oh
and
yeah,
and
I'm sure.
that's why I'm like, okay, so like, how does that happen, right?
It, it could.
Is it like he has sex with them, Epstein records it, and then the next day he's like, hey man, I got you on videotape, or
Probably.
like how exactly does that? Like, is he overtly threatening them, or is he just kind of like, oh, just so you know?
If if I'm correct and a lot of the reporting is correct, like it was an intelligence operation, so they definitely like let them know. I mean that would kind not letting them know would kind of defeat the purpose of having the blackmail. But it's also like I think an element of is like I said, like a lot of these people just getting like really weird stuff. It's something about like that level of like money and power. But then there's also just the element of like like what I said earlier, like initiation ceremonies. It could be like, yeah, you want to join the club, you got to do this, man. You got to do this. Like that's only you only let you in if you do this, and then it's like once you do that, yeah, you're in the club, but now you can never get out. And
Do you think it would be? Do you think it would be? I would say obvious, but do you think it would make sense why Trump is on a list like that?
taking the position that he is, and not knowing his level of involvement, just as a matter of like, would he be on the list? I could see it. He was a very powerful and rich individual in 1980s New York. I mean, there was a reason he was friends with Epstein. There's a reason he was friends with Diddy. Like they all run in these like circles. I mean, to what level he was in, I really can't speculate because we just don't know enough. But it's like, yeah, given that social circle, given that again, like it's historically it's happened a lot, but it's also it seems like it's almost more prevalent now. I guess in a way for these people just be like really deviant. Like again, I just we can speculate the psychology behind it, but it's just like it's just something about it, man. It just seems to attract the weirdness out of them. I really don't know.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that I'm like with Trump. I'm like, okay, if it's like a status thing, I could kind of see the ego being like, oh, I need to be in this club or whatever it is. Um, getting that power and influence. Like I could totally see that. But that's why I'm like, okay, but like, you know, I don't know what else he would get out of it. Because, like you said, I mean, this is like the '90s. I mean, Trump wasn't even really thinking about doing politics or anything like that seriously, right? And that's what I'm like, okay, like Epstein probably wasn't thinking like, okay, this guy's going to be president next year, like President Clinton, where he's like, okay, he's in politics. So that's why I almost wonder, like with Trump, it's like, okay, like what was the advantage of getting something out of him? Like, did they just go to a bunch of parties together and
It could just be as simple as like connections, because it's like,
that's what I mean, like it was just like a social thing, and that's when I'm like, okay, I can kind of see why Trump would be hanging out with this guy and everything like that. And it's like,
I mean, if
okay,
you're
Trump fucked a porn star when Melania was pregnant. Like okay, like he's not like let's be real here. He's not like a saint.
We yeah.
And so it's like, okay,
we don't
it's like,
elect
okay,
Sunday school teachers, guys.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
honestly, too,
we
it's
do
like,
not elect Sunday school teachers to office.
I mean, maybe we should. I mean, given the recent track record, I'm just saying. But
it's like okay, and then he had 3 wives before that, and he wasn't like the best husband, and I'm like okay, like yeah, like shit happens, like I'm not a saint either, but it's one of those where it's like, okay, well, he's done enough shit to be like, for me to be like, okay, did he fuck some girl not thinking she was 18? Probably, like okay, like yeah, I can see that happening.
yeah, I mean, and then too, there's just the element of like more than just being like a social club. It's like, okay, if like you need to grease the skids, like you want to network with these people, you want to connect with them, like, hey, I want to do this project, I need some money. Okay, well, I got to connect with these guys, or like by 2000, he was like seriously considering politics. Like he did kind of have like an abortive run for, I think it was like Reform Party or something. And it's like, yeah, if you want to get into politics, like it could be like, hey, we can hook you up with donors, we can hook you up with this or that, but you got to be in the club, man, or you gotta. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, that's a little out there. I think for, like I said, I think for him it's probably just social. They're probably doing blow and fucking girls together, and that's probably how he made his money, and that's how he knew Jeffrey. But I'm like, like I don't. I mean, and I think maybe one thing to remember is, Trump kind of was also like an actor, right? He did all the what was his show? Not Art of the Deal. Um, The Apprentice. Like he was doing that kind of shit. So he's probably in the movie scene, and so he probably maybe got roped in there just because he was in all that kind of stuff. It may have nothing. It may have nothing to do with New York. Do you think that Epstein killed himself?
let Josh answer that because like I feel like I've monopolized too much.
What do you think, Josh?
For which one? For which question?
Did Epstein unalive himself?
Yes,
Oh, really?
I think so.
You don't think anyone else did it?
Well, let me take that back. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I think someone did it. Um, I think someone unalived him. I think they were in the Clinton crony situation.
Really?
I think the Clinton like crew killed him though, but that's my opinion.
So, what I think is interesting about that is it's like, I don't, until you know the list. Maybe that's why they're hiding the list. Because like if you see who's on the list, you can maybe pinpoint, okay, who knows a guy who can kill somebody, and maybe that kind of is what you're saying, Josh, where it's like, oh, well, maybe the Clintons know someone to go kill. Like I can see that stuff, but it's like, you know, I didn't realize this till I think it was this past week, but there was actually like 2 hallways you can get to his cell, and the video camera was only on one of the hallways, wasn't even on the other one, and they had tried to edit the video, and I'm like, God damn, I'm like, if I knew about this shit at the very beginning, I would have been like, no fucking way.
To
That's what I'm
make
like I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, you guys might know a little bit more about that, but that's what I've heard, and I'm just like, damn. I'm like, this looks fucking weirder than I originally thought.
to make it even weirder, and I remember this at the time because I saw it happen. Like I literally saw it happen. Like I think it was the day of. Like I think it was like 15 or 20 minutes before like it was announced he was dead or like anything was known. Somebody made a post on social media like, yeah, he unalived himself. Like I'm like it was like you like I want to say like 15, 20 minutes before any like the major news media like knew about it or like at least reported it. So it's like that's really weird. Like some random person was able to like post about that. So,
Yeah.
so that just adds another complication to it because it's like, okay, what did that person know? But
Well, and
like,
I think I heard that like I forget who was doing this, but I think they said on Tucker Carlson show. Apparently, there were like 12 or 13 inmates moved out of that cell the next day or something like that, and they were shipped to different facilities. And it's like, okay,
and
but
all
it's
the
like
guards
nobody knows who it is,
and all the guards were asleep when it happened. Just happened to be in that window.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just like, okay, like that's a little weird,
It's it's as far as like who did it. If and like I agree with Josh 100%. Like it was definitely like somebody did it. Um, I personally think it was like like I keep saying, I think he was intelligence agency connected, and they definitely know people in those intel agencies who can take care of you. As far as like motive, I think he was doing this for like at least 2 decades, maybe closer to three. I can't remember the exact estimate they think of when all this stuff was going on, but like it was several decades at least. Like I think part of it was like he was just getting so reckless with it towards the end. Like there's a lot of details about that. It almost kind of reminds me of like the Diddy situation in a way, where it's just like you're moving so recklessly that like we can't prevent it from getting out now, so then we have to arrest you. But then it's also like you getting arrested now, you're a liability because like you go to court and start spilling, like that's gonna jeopardize us too. So it's like it was so public at that point they couldn't protect him, and then once he got arrested, it's like, okay, you're a loose end, we gotta take care of it.
So, do you think he was in the CIA or whatever, or or Mossad, or do you think he was working on behalf of Mossad?
I don't think there's any. I- Based on the evidence, I don't think he was an actual agent, but he was definitely like an asset. So, like on
Okay.
behalf of, like Ghislaine was like, or how do you pronounce her name? Is it Ghislaine? Ghislaine?
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine. It's one of those weird pronunciations. Ghislaine, like her dad was like
Yeah,
verified.
he was like Israeli Mossad, right?
Yeah, he was like verifiably like a Mossad agent, and then like she was kind of like his fixer. So it's like, okay, there's that, and then he had some weird connections too. I don't remember if it was Mossad, but it's just like the fact that like he was running in all these circles and he was already kind of wealthy, like would kind of make him a good conduit, even if he didn't have prior connections. And then he's with her, and it's like, and two, it's like, we're so focused on him. She's still alive and she's in
Oh yeah.
prison, so it's like, what does she know? It's like I feel like, I almost feel like crazy at points with this because it's like there's so many facets to it, and then it's like she's sitting right there. It's like, okay, you guys want to play like the list don't exist? Okay, we'll bring her public. Let's let her start naming names. Like let's do it. I mean,
One
it,
thing I one thing I think is interesting just about the whole hospital part is it's like nobody's gone through the entire video. Like, okay,
yeah,
like who walked out of the building? Like okay, like let's back it all the way up and do that. And because I do think like kind of with what you're saying, where it's like someone important is like, yeah, like you've gone a little over your skis. You know, you knew this was gonna happen. And I think that's why, like for me, I'm like, he seemed like he was like he knew, like, okay, I'm gonna die. Like they're gonna get me. You know, and I think about it with like her, and I'm like, she's got to be worth more. It's either she's got to be worth more, or all eyes are on her, to where people are like, oh, we can't touch her. Because I'm like, the only way that she's still alive is either she works for the actual agency, actual Mossad,
mhm.
or she, you know, she wasn't directly involved in kind of being reckless like he was.
I mean, they got her. I can't remember what they even got her for. She's been convicted, and I can't remember what that specific charges they got her on was. But it's like, yeah, like she's and like I don't want to say it because then it kind of takes away from like his whole aspect of it. But it almost feels like part of the reason we're still so focused on him is because she's alive, and it's like, okay, it's like I said, like you guys want to play the list don't exist, that's fine. I'm willing to play that game. But here's the deal: like she's allowed, bring her public. Let's let her start like naming names. And I feel like that's almost the part of the reason the focus is still on him because it's like like hardly anybody talks about her now. That is one thing I've noticed. Is it seems like it's all focused on like the list instead of like the only person that's still alive that can actually name names. And like as for what they've not done anything with her, that is a really good question. And I almost feel like
I think it could just be she's got too many eyes on her.
too many
Like
eyes. She's too
like it's
valuable.
like oh, if we get rid of her, then it's like okay,
Yeah,
you
like at this
know,
point, you can't really you
you
can't get
can't
back.
cover that up.
Yeah, at that point, it'd be too obvious. But it's it's just it's bizarre and like there's there's so many things happening right now, and this is probably one of the better examples. But like once you start like peeling back the layers on it, you almost start feeling like a tinfoil hat kind of person because it's like it really gets kind of weird and dark once you start looking into this stuff.
Last question with the Epstein stuff. Um, do you think it's going to take as long as it took for the JFK assassination files to be released to get anything on this one? Because you got to remember, I mean, if you look at someone like Jack Ruby, I mean, he was alive for 2 years or so after the assassination, and then he was killed. So
Which just a quick side note on that. Like, does that not strike anybody else as like really suspicious that first Oswald and then Jack Ruby? I mean, come on. To a certain extent, it's like, come on, guys.
well,
But
that's what I'm saying. Is it's like, hey, okay, we can't kill him yet, but maybe we'll wait a few years.
yeah, like that is the one thing I do wonder with like Ghislaine. Like, are we going to wake up one day in like 2030 and be like, oh, okay, interesting? But honestly, like, it's one of those things, man. I don't know. Like, I definitely feel like they're trying to cover up as much of it as they can. So I mean, there is an element of like, okay, what will we get? And, it's kind of like you said earlier, like stuff does come out. Like, is it going to be like the full picture deal, or is it going to be just like these selective like leaks? They'll pretend like it's all. I mean, it's as much as it pains me to say, I doubt we'll ever have the full story. I personally doubt that. But now, I expect stuff to eventually come out, regardless. Like, too many people clearly know something, and eventually somebody's going to talk, or somebody's going to be put in a situation where they have to talk. So it's like, there is that, but you know,
So let's actually end it on this, and then I'll go to you, Josh. Um, who do you think has information? Who of the people who have information do you think would be the closest to talking? Like, do you think there's someone who out there, like, say, a CIA agent, who's like, oh yeah, we've been tracking Jeffrey Epstein since like the '80s, and then that kind of shifts everything into another direction? Or like, who do you think has that information that could really change this whole narrative? Because I think it's definitely like I think the thing is it's like our intelligence knew about it. I think that's where it's going to end up coming. Where one of the reasons why they don't want to release it is because the U.S. So it's because was doing the spying operation, and the U.S. knew about it, and maybe they were getting information on it or something like that. That's how I could see maybe one reason why they wouldn't want to do it. And so that's one reason why I could see the people who would want to talk, or maybe the case off who could talk, like the case officer for, you know, that specific case. So what do you think? Awesome.
I don't know, man. Like, it's
Like, do you think someone knows, but they're just not saying?
in terms of, like what went on. Yeah, for sure. There's got to be does like that whole like I'm from like I think we're all of the opinion like something happened in that jail, and like there definitely had to be dozens of people involved in that to some extent, and like eventually somebody on their deathbed is either going to confess or somebody's like they're going to get pinched for something and they're going to be like, well, hey, I'll tell you this, or there's somebody. It's just one of those things, man. It's like something's going to eventually come out. I have no doubt about that. But now, in terms of like, are we going to get like an actual list or all these, all the case files like the FBI had or whatever? Like, and that's another thing. Like, there was literally what was it like hundreds of FBI agents like combed that island, and they got all like allegedly they claimed they got all the tapes and stuff. So it's like we don't even need the list. You guys have the tapes. You could tell us who's on the tapes. Like, it's something. Somebody's eventually going to leak something. I firmly feel that. Now, like I said though, I doubt we'll ever get the full picture. But it's just like, just from like a human perspective, like it'll happen. But then there's also just like the moral perspective of like, I firmly feel at some point like what's been happening is just so completely evil that like at a certain point something's going to have to give.
Okay. So Josh, who do you think has information that they're not
Who do I think has what?
information that they're not saying?
Anybody in the Clinton staff?
Really? You think it goes all the way back there?
I think it does, personally. That's kind of where I'm at with it, at least. I mean, I feel like most people now, especially if you're on the, because I mean, I'll be honest. Like, let's call it for what it is. Like, there are people on both sides of the aisle that are involved in this. Like, just is what it is. Anybody on the Republican side, I feel like they're too ingrained with Trump, and they're trying not to like make it a thing. But let's be honest. I mean, even Elon kind of alluded to it. I mean, I'm pretty sure Trump was somewhere on them flight logs. Like,
Yeah.
um, but again, I'm also a believer in we don't elect Sunday school teachers. I have yet, and I've only I take that back. I've only ever worked with two elected officials that like I got elected when I was on there that didn't have anything like skeletons in their closet that weren't like crazy. Like I'll give you small shit, like it's like, oh, I forgot to get my license to practice law or medicine in this state, okay, that's not bad. But like when you're like, oh, I illegally did this and that, that's where I'm like, oh shit. And I have yet to meet, and I hate to say that, I've done politics a long time, but I have only ever worked, and I've done 11 campaigns in my life, and two of them have never had like only two of them have not had skeletons in their closet. Like, so like for me, it's like, I know the game, I know what it is. It sucks. It just is what it is. But I think the Republican side of it is keep it close to the chest. They're on the Trump side of it. Democrats, I feel like new age Democrats, because like Clinton, I'll give you Clinton one thing. I don't think Clinton was a bad president. Like I'll be honest, I think Clinton was actually pretty decent. But I'm not a big fan of Hillary. But like my thing with it is just, I think on the Democrat side, new age, I feel like they dig too much, and they would try to like put all the Republican stuff up and inevitably bite themselves in the ass because it all would come out then. And so someone has told them to pipe down, and it's got to be an old head. I mean, you like there is no new head that would say that. They would literally out trying to out the Republicans, that would out themselves. But an old head has definitely said something, and I think it goes back to the Clintons. And again, I'm not trying to like shit on Bill, but like Hillary and Bill, I'm just like somewhere in that fucking staff, somewhere, and that's 3 eons ago in politics, because eons are weird with it, like the eras of politics. You had that '90s Clinton and all that, and then you get the Bush to Obama was an eon, and then you get like even the first Trump presidency was 2 eons ago. So like it does go back. It had to be an old head, and they're the last old heads I can think of that would be on it. Sorry, that was a little long-winded.
No, that's good. Let's end it there.
Alrighty, well, I will go ahead and stop the recording.